You may know some of America's most popular lakes, such as Old Fairfield in Indiana. Here's Dana in Massachusetts. Here's a cute little sunset photo of Saponara in Colorado. But did you know these lakes used to be thriving black towns? Take Lake Lanier, for example, in Georgia. It's a popular destination spot for 10 million visitors, resulting in a $5 billion revenue. Yeah, it also used to be known as Oscarville in Forsyth County, Georgia. Forsyth County, Georgia. In 1912, 2 young white girls were found beaten and murdered in the county. Black teenagers from Oscarville, Ernest Knox, who was 16, and Oscar Daniel, who was 18, were charged, tried, and convicted in a single day. Yep, a single day. This came from racial tensions and fear that black men were secretly having sexual relationships with white women in the South. 5,000 people actually came to watch the public lynching of the 2 boys. And after they were murdered, white residents attacked their hometown and destroyed it in an effort to drive out the black community. The once booming black town of over 1,000 residents decreased to 0 residents in just 8 years. And how did our government take accountability? By covering it up like always, sweetie. No, really, it's covered up. They covered up the town in water in what is now Lake Lanier. There's actually schools, churches, and stores laying underneath the jet skis and the boats. And Lake Lanier isn't the only one. Lake Martin in Alabama used to be a town called Galicia. It was another black town that had the first black railroad. And we all now know Central Park covers up York Hill and Seneca Village. There are over 100 drowned towns in America, some the result of violent racism and others the result of systemic racism. This is known as development-induced displacement, which places long-term benefits like a city's revenue over short-term benefits like the families and communities who live there. Black communities have literally been erased from our history books and our maps. This is exactly why we need critical race theory in our school systems. You may know some of them.
Bruh. They are coming out with a film about Lake Lanier. Like, is Black History really Black Historying this month? Like this year? Like, damn. So if nobody knows about the story behind Lake Lanier, I'm just gonna give you a really brief in detail to it. Lake Lanier was a black town. It was once a black town. And of course, you know, back then, black towns were not something that certain people wanted to see. And what they did was they basically did as they did in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They bombed them from the ground up, probably drowned them out. Either way, they drowned the whole town, basically, and built Lake Lanier on top of the town. And it was a full black town. So if you know the whole history behind it is that people will go there, they would just come up missing, get sucked up under the lake or whatever. The fact they're making a movie about it, then the caption, just because you took it doesn't mean you own it. Yep.
Lake Lanier is the largest lake in Georgia. It's a man-made lake meant to provide water and power to the surrounding communities. They actually made it by flooding a valley that had a town in it, Oscarville. So they had to relocate the people that lived there, and then they just drowned the entire town under water.
Oscarville wasn't the only town that was affected by the building of Lake Lanier. In the 1940s and 50s, the U.S. government acquired the rights to more than 56,000 acres of land in Forsyth, Hall, and Dawson counties to make room for the 38,000-acre lake and more than 700 miles of shoreline. This included several small towns, and the remains of these communities are still submerged beneath the surface of Lake Lanier.
When they built the lake, they left tons of structure in the water. We've got concrete, roads, bridges. We've got a racetrack under there. We've got standing timber that stands as high as 40, 60, 70 feet from the bottom.
There seems to be a great deal of debris in the water, so it's not an ideal place for people to be swimming or boating or jet skiing or partying. The fact is, it's a dangerous place.
Authorities claim that many people drown in Lake Lanier because they get caught in the debris lurking beneath its surface. But researchers studying the lake believe this is only part of the story, and that the source of the dark force drawing people down into its murky depths is a Native American burial ground that was submerged by the lake's construction.
Back in 2007, there was a drought, and the water went way low. And because of that, they found an area called the Samore Mountains, Indian Mountains. It's considered a sacred area that belonged to the Native Americans, the Creeks and the Cherokees. Lake Lanier was built by the Army Corps of Engineers. And according to the Army Corps of Engineers, they removed all the bodies while they were creating Lake Lanier. But back when they were building these lakes, they didn't have ground-penetrating equipment. So there's a great likelihood that there are bodies of the Native Americans under the waters of Lake Lanier.
Could the presence of Native American remains beneath Lake Lanier have a connection to the unusual number of accidental deaths there? Has the Native American belief in the power of ancestral spirits cursed Lake Lanier?
Certainly among Native American traditions, we have a widespread belief in curses, particularly land-based curses. And this connects to an overall sort of belief in animism, that the material world is infused with spiritual aspects. Now, many Native American traditions had long-standing, very deep beliefs about how to treat dead bodies and how not to disturb them, and how not to disturb burial sites. The desecration of those is held in Native communities to bring on a lot of bad spiritual energy.
Is it possible that Lake Lanier is home to dark spiritual energy? Perhaps. But what's most surprising is that even though this lake may be cursed, people continue to enter its waters every day.
There's world-class divers that will not dive Lake Lanier. We have 11 to 14 million people a year that are coming here and taking their chances, in spite of the fact that there has been somewhere between 600 and 700 drownings on this lake. I'm not saying that there's a curse, but I'm saying there's definitely some bad energy. And if it's not cursed, maybe it should be.
Welcome to Oscar.
Where are we going?
It's something blue.
Oh, Lake Lanier.
Race has nothing to do with it.
1912, Oscarville, Georgia.
You stand above what was taken from us as people.
Did you take your mask?
I did.
Never would have thought someone like you would be able to do all this.
I swear, there's someone out there.
No! You must continue to adventure.
I just want people to know what they... Welcome.
I need to report. So let's get into how we on this boat at Lake Lanier, and while I'm sitting here trying to keep from being queasy and cute at the same time, my little cousins decide to disclose to me that there is a cemetery under the lake. And they was like, girl, you never heard about Lake Lanier? And I'm like, nah, girl, what's up? She's like, it's bodies up under here. And I'm like, ha ha ha. She's like, no, really? And so I...
Lake Lanier is...
Now, many of us know about Lake Lanier and the history behind that, but today let's talk about Lake Martin and the Benson community. So let's start off with John Benson, the free.
Lake Lanier, that shit not a lake. Under it, it was a black community. Most of these lakes made the cover up evidence. Y'all swimming in graveyards, gotta be losing. Seneca Village, a black town up in New York, where black people own all their properties. They tore it down and put up Central Park. They was hating on us the whole time, what the fuck? Cowaliga, black town in Alabama destroyed. Now it's Lake Martin, Susanna, another town under that lake. Those is black Wall Streets, we can never be great. Vanport, Oregon, another black town got flooded. Now that shit Delta Park. Where's our reparations? What the hell? These crimes need a punishment worse than jail. Warren in Baltimore, Maryland, a community that was black ran. And guess what them niggas put over it? I goddamn damn. I know it's a black town under the Hoover. I know it's a black town under Lake Mead. I know it's a black town under all these goddamn lakes. In the day, niggas stoking our breed. Got my ancestors under the sea. Got my ancestors buried on trees. Where the fuck is my goddamn money? Y'all paying these taxes, but what about me? Bitch, come apart too, cause I cannot let up. It's just too much fuckery. Get in this world back, that is Lake Lanier.
Hi, I got a lot of reaction from my video about don't swim in Lake Lanier and never go to Lake Lanier. And that was just a voiceover. Some people think this lake is haunted. It's a beautiful lake. It's 35 miles northeast of Atlanta. It was built in the 1950s. It's got 38,000 acres. It's in 5 different counties, over 500 miles of shoreline, so unfortunately people do die every year. I will go into some of those stories next, but I want to review a little bit of history about Lake Lanier and why it was built.
Oh, you see that book up there?
I've lived on the lake for many years.
Forsyth
This
County
book is great.
Heritage.
It documents how it was built, when it was
That
built.
must have been a real
different
interesting
properties
read.
that were bought to make the lake, what's under the lake,
So
everything
just
like
straight
that.
up,
And I'll
just
go into that
straight
with
up
you
fabrication,
later,
so.
but Lake Lanier is awesome.
Lake Lanier, built over a town that was racially cleansed by a mob of white people after a white woman was found beaten and raped and people were lynched.
It was one of the worst movies I have ever seen. All the hype about this movie was very misleading. It is based on an event that happened in 1912. You see that there? They didn't even mention what the event was, not when the city was flooded in 1956. This comment is crazy, but let's break it down so we can understand.
Lake Lanier is infamous for the deaths of more than 200 people in the past 3 decades, including Usher's stepson. Let's talk about it. Lake Lanier has been labeled dangerous on several occasions, but primarily because it is a man-made lake and there are buildings, towns, boats, and countless bodies below the surface. A once thriving black town called Oscarville, comprised of successful black carpenters, farmers, and blacksmiths, is submerged within Lake Lanier too. This past year marked the 11th anniversary of Usher's stepson Kyle's death at the lake.
What's up, y'all? So if y'all don't know that I'm obsessed with American Horror Story by now, then now you know. And I just have to talk about it because it seemed like the last few episodes I've been talking about things that I've made my videos on in the past or things that I'm interested in. And then it's like, is American Horror Story coming to my if you don't know what it is. So basically it's like one of the most dangerous lakes in the state of Georgia. A lot of mysterious, weird stuff goes on. People think that it's cursed. People think that it's haunted. Some people say they be on the lake all the time and nothing happens. But it used to be a thriving black community that they decided to build. How would y'all feel if somebody built a lake on top of your graveyard? I'm seeing visions of the brother ask her.
Lake Lanier in Georgia. The government had decided they were going to flood this big canyon area in Georgia, but the big problem was there's a city there. Basically evacuated everybody out of there.
Hey, so you know how studios be saying based on a true story on a horror movie, and we be like, I don't really know how true this story really is. Well, let me tell you something about this movie right here, man. This right here may very well be 100% true. Because if you from Georgia, you know anybody from Georgia, you just from the South, period, then you heard of Lake Lanier. You know, the lake where there has literally been multiple drownings every single year since like the 60s, 70s, bro. The same Lake Lanier that I'm 100% certain was built on top of stolen land, that they kicked a bunch of people out and then flooded the whole town and turned it into a man-made lake. Yeah, that Lake Lanier. Look, I don't know if it's going to the movie theater or if it's going to streaming services, but what I do know is that on September 16th, 2023, this year, we getting the Lanier movie. So the plot reads a detective.
Lake Lanier.
Some people, even the strongest of swimmers, have said it felt like somebody was pulling them under the water when they found themselves in Lake Lanier. And there are plenty who aren't even from the area who would tell you not to get in the water of Lake Lanier. Mostly due to the rising popularity of its haunting past and its haunting present. If this nearly 58 square mile reservoir is cursed, then there's numerous reasons that you can point to as to why. In 1912, Oscarville was home to around 1,100 blacks, until her mother ran them off. The Forsyth County Sheriff pinned 5 black men for this, which caused a stir amongst the black communities in the area. A vocal and local preacher named Grant Smith tried to appeal to the sheriff for the men, citing little evidence and that there was a chance that one of the men was actually in a relationship with Christ. This angered the local white community, so they came to the courthouse for Grant Smith, with horsewhips and other various things. And on those steps is where Grant Smith almost passed away. Tony Howell, one of the men, was accused and convicted. Shortly after this, false rumors began to spread that blacks were planning to do something to a nearby town. So white residents in the areas were loading up on arms and patrolling the towns. On September 12th, 1912, 16-year-old Ernest Knox was accused of assaulting 18-year-old May Crow. She was found barely alive in the nearby Big Creek community. Searchers allegedly found a small pocket mirror belonging to Ernest Knox. They found him at home, threatened to hang him, and coerced him to confess. Knox and 4 other men presumed to be his accomplices were taken to a jail in the Atlanta area. A group of over 2,000 whites came to the jail and overtook it, hanging one of those men, Rob Edwards, from a telephone pole in the town square. Both Knox and another teenager named Oscar Daniel were found guilty. They were sentenced to hanging without ever having a fair trial, a sentence that was also against the law in the state at this time. And the Night Riders, an openly supremacist group, was formed after these events, with their main goal being to run every black person out of Forsyth County and beyond. Oscarville became the subject of their attention. Over 98% of its black residents were run out of town or slaughtered for not leaving. Black property deeds were literally given to white neighbors without a bill of sale or transfer. The Night Riders and their allies drove every black person out of Oscarville. They stole their land and left it a ghost town. The land would eventually be sold to the government, and in the 1950s, the Lake Lanier project was underway. The entirety of Oscarville and other small towns would be completely flooded underwater, and the reservoir would be named after Sidney Lanier, a Confederate. In total, over 50,000 acres of farmland would be washed away, 250 families displaced, and over 20 cemeteries left under the water. And to this day, it seems that what was left behind still has a story to tell. Hundreds and hundreds of people have passed away in this lake, with well over 200 of them happening after 1994. What that number doesn't include are also the amount of accidents that happen, both vehicular and boating in nature. On top of that, it's said that this lake is haunted. One of the legends is that the spirits under the water would try to pull you under. Roads, artifacts, and foundations have been found underneath the water, which also leads people to believe that there are souls tied to them forever. People also claim to have felt inanimate arms and legs underneath the murky water. And the most popular myth is the Lady of the Lake. The story goes that a woman and her friend were heading to Dawsonville in 1958. That car...
Hey, family, friends.
Lauren, are you ready to see your...
Here's a crazy clip. So this person throws food off of their cruise ship, and then they zoom into the water to see what happens. And like an endless crab leg buffet, you see all these fish just going at every single piece. But this got me remember that one video of that one kid who jumped off the...
Hey, my beautiful people. This comment definitely stood out to me. And I thought I would address it. She says, my stepdad drowned in Lake Lanier and my mom has been possessed since then. What killed him down there? I've spoken on Lake Lanier before. I've been feeling like I need to speak on it again. So I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about it. So back in the beginning of April, I actually was going to go visit Lake Lanier to get some content, to get some filming done, to see what I could feel, what I can hear. Did anybody need me down there? But after I thought about it for a little while, I was actually in Georgia that day. I decided not to go. So for this one, I had to take an L on it, okay? Because just because a lot of black people in the community, so they were driven out when they started doing this man-made lake, and then also dying because nobody's supposed to be there. There shouldn't even be a lake there. So what happens when you have victims of Lake Lanier? These victims, they haven't transitioned to a better place or ascended or anything like that. The whole purpose of this lake claiming these lives is because they want them down there with them. They figure that you are in the lake, you must want to join us. So sorry to say this, that your stepdad has now entered into this cycle. And the reason for your mom being possessed is because he wants her. He wants her, okay? I'm just being honest. And so now he's calling her from that Lake Lanier, from that grave under Lake Lanier. And Lake Lanier is not the only lake that's like this. One that I know personally is Lake Hartwell in Anderson, South Carolina, right before you get into Georgia. There are a lot of lakes that have claimed lives for this very same reason right here. Hey, my beautiful
It's high man-made reservoir in which a prior city lies beneath. Lake Lanier is far from the only one. Even the largest reservoir in the United States is hiding Native American cities. But some of the biggest cities that are now underwater are on the East Coast. One of these cities, Drora, was in North Carolina and was discovered by the Spanish in the 1500s. The High Rock Reservoir covers the city, and it's no secret. Many artifacts have been discovered in the area, even relating to the Spanish colonization. This is all deliberately hidden because it affects the lives of many peoples in more ways than one. All these cities were major American Indian Afro-Indigenous hubs, and makes you wonder, what else are they hiding from us? There's a hidden Native American city beneath this lake. Lake Lanier, formerly Oscarville, is often associated with the hidden Black American city. But prior to being known as a Negro city, Lake Lanier now stands on what was once a major American city. Archaeologists have discovered mounds throughout the vicinity of the lake. What if I told you that Lake Lanier isn't the only man-made reservoir in which a prior city lies beneath? Lake Lanier is far from the only one. Even the largest
Lake Lanier.
This is a story about my son who drowned in Lake Lanier.
Who told you that?
My name's Frank Shirley. I'm the head of the committee to keep Forsyth and Dawson County white.
Let him speak.
Okay, the news media has covered up. There were thousands of white people that came out to join our white people's protest. This is the largest white people's protest against communism and race mixing in the last 30 years. The news media has deliberately covered up the nature of the Brotherhood marchers, many of whom are outright communists and homosexuals, and our organization was the only one that dared take a stand against them. They brought in thousands.
You're not just anti-black, you're also anti-gay, too.
I'm opposed to communism, race mixing, and low morals, and homosexuals are of low morals, in my opinion.
Damn.
Lauren.
When they tell you, don't go to Lake Lanier. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Most definitely, this is one of the most beautiful lakes in the world. But the thing is, there are unlimited amount of signs that warn people to swim at their own risk. Because this shit is too dangerous for lifeguards. This year, this lake really showed people that it wasn't bullshit. So far, 8 people have died, and certain parts of this lake is infested with leeches, and it also has crocodiles. This is Lake Lanier, and it is rough 38,000 acres, and it is also one of the most polluted lakes in the U.S. But in 1912, this lake was actually a black community, and it was originally called. This is insane. Motherfuckers look like Harry and Lloyd. Mob by the name of self-performers, carpenters, and bricklayers. Yes, they were really bringing in that motherfucking bag. Until one day, a white mob by the name of the Night Riders invaded their town, forcing them out, making the town all white. Ain't no motherfucking way that you robbed me with this bullshit on. This is insane. Motherfuckers look like Harry and Lloyd. Lots of people died that night. They completely destroyed Oscarville, the crops and businesses and all. And in the 1950s, the U.S. Army built the Beaufort Dam for flooding purposes and flooded the whole damn town. And whenever it's a drought, you can see trees, cars, stop signs, and houses. This fucking lake is haunted as fuck. And that night, many people have claimed to seeing ghosts around that bitch. And there have been stories about brand new boats sinking in this lake. These motherfuckers stupid. They still coming to this place. And these ghosts are not bullshit. They fucking up every race. They might as well go ahead and put up a sign saying, who's next? Since 1956, this shit killed over 700 people.